Hello everyone, this is Haneesh Katnawer from Himachal Hemp, and so today we have a very special guest to talk about the legal system. So to give you a background, the first PIL in India was filed in 1976, and public interest litigation is basically a collaborative effort where the advocate stands for the observance of the constitutional or legal rights and benefits and privileges of the vulnerable sections of the society. And in this section today we will talk about farmers and patients. So let's welcome today guys Deven Khanna with us. He is a High Court lawyer from Shimla. He's right now practicing in Shimla High Court. So Deven, how are you today? How is lockdown treating you? How is everything?
Lockdown is brilliant for me actually. I'm reading a lot and just been in my house. It's all good. Better than the people who are on the streets, I think.
Okay, so I will come to the topic now. So first of all, Deven, I wanted to know, so how come your journey started with cannabis, and what was your first perception about the plant?
Yes, so the journey started with my journey with PILs, Public Interest Litigations, or I call them social action litigations. So I was doing a lot of work for protection of forests and also of farmer rights and forest rights of indigenous people who are living in forest communities. So because of that work, I was traveling throughout Himachal. I have been made amicus in protection of wetlands and protection of rivers also by the High Court. So because of that, I got a chance to travel around Himachal, and I got to know certain issues which farmers are facing. And the most important thing which every state is facing is why they are not able to fulfill fundamental rights of citizens is because they don't have money to for example, to build roads, or to provide water, or provide equipment to clean the water, or just to restore the water sites, and also other to create a sewage treatment plant. So all these litigations I was already involved in, and in every litigation there was a argument which was made by the state that we don't have the money, though your petition is very nice and your rights you have made out, but we don't have the money to act upon the rights which you have been able to point out to the court which stand violated. So what we used to argue there was that, of course, lack of funds is never an argument. It cannot be used in the court, and there is a specific way to deal with that argument. But just to help the government in this way, I was always thinking of ways of increasing the economic capacity of the state. And this one particular thing about cannabis is that cannabis has a lot of economic potential for our state, and this was one part of it, how I got introduced to it. The second part of it was that I was actually made the amicus curiae in a petition which was ongoing in the court, which dealt with the controlling the drug menace in Himachal Pradesh. So in that I had to suggest mechanism for reforming the activities of the NDPS department and the activities of the government, how they can be reformed. And so I have to make some suggestions to the court, to help controlling the drug menace. And the third way which I got attracted to this plant was because there were people in my family who my taiji was suffering from cancer, and that time I got to know that cannabis is probable cure for cancer. Which, see, now it is it might be a cure, it might not be a cure. There are a lot of people who vouch for it that it is a cure, but when what I know is that when a person is dealing with cancer and the only treatment provided to him is chemotherapy, that treatment itself becomes a haunting experience.
So today, do you know what has spoiled medicine? Money. It's become a big industry today. It shows the basic defect in our thinking. So chemotherapy, radiation, mutilative surgery are okay. They may look very good because the advertisement, but they're really, in fact, they don't do any good. And now we have known that the use of chemotherapy aids and abets the second cancer. So in the bargain, we have killed more people by our treatment than saved.
So what I wanted was that there should be a research done on this plant that if it, of course, if it helps, even if it has helped so many people, so they cannot ban scientific research on this plant if so many people are claiming to be treated by it. Cancer is one of the things. Then epilepsy, so there is a drug which I came to know about it after my research, that a drug called Epidiolex is there, which is treating seizures. So all these 3-4 factors were there, where ultimately which led to me researching about this plant. And ultimately, when this petition was filed, I had taken all these 3 grounds. Of course, the economic ground, the medical and the right to medicine ground, and like how to control the drug problem of the state. All these 3 factors, I had touch with all these 3 factors in different ways. And yeah, that's how I came to know cannabis as a plant which can really help in certain situations.
Okay.
Yes.
So then just give us a brief about, you filed this PIL in High Court, Shimla High Court. So what motivated you to do it, and what are the constituents of the PIL, and how come you managed to get it through the court, like most of the petitions that were filed before for cannabis, or they were not, judges were not in favor of this. So what was your strategy for it, and how did you do it?
See, that's what if I have to tell you this, a lot of things are involved and a lot of factors are involved in court cases. The timing has to be right. You have to know about what the judges are thinking of, what argument is the argument this certain judge will write. You have to sit there and you have to understand the psyche of the judge. Mostly, you see, they say that a good lawyer is one who knows the law, but a better lawyer is one who knows the judge. And one who knows the judge is the one who not knows him through some shady means. It is the one who sits in the court and understands the psyche of the judge and tries to understand and grasp the situation where what is the kind of a thinking which is going on in judge's mind. So now when I was doing this case, before filing this case, I was involved in number of public interest and social action litigations. So there was some credibility which I had, fortunately, that judges in the first instance, they didn't throw the petition out. They were like, let's listen to him because he has been doing some public interest work, so probably it is an honest petition. So the first prima facie was this aspect of it, that there was certain face value to the petition. The second face value in the sense that I was doing honest work, not very big, lucrative, big lawyer work, but it was an honest public interest work which was happening throughout the year. And so the Honorable Chief Justice that time was Mr. Katnawer, and he was happy to actually understand it, happy to listen to the problem. And everybody is trying to find a solution to the problem. Everybody is worried about their children who are going into the drug trade, or who are going to jail because of the drugs. So they want solutions, and the present solutions are not working. So some people when the solutions are not working, some people open their mind and they are open to the ideas, and they can, if they make reason sound, then they probably will listen if there is some reason in your language. So it depends upon the judges a lot. What kind of a judge is listening to your case? It depends upon your timing. It depends upon your strategy, and you can't be very self-involved. What I have found with this particular plant and this particular issue is that people have their own idealistic models of what right and wrong is, or like this plant is a natural plant and everything natural is something should be allowed and all that. See, all these arguments, they don't work in a system which has a built set of arguments which will work. I have never heard an argument in any case that it is a natural right. What is natural is where it is defined what is natural and what is not natural. Whatever your natural rights were, they are already codified in the constitution. So now they are constitutional rights. So either you take your make your right-based arguments from the constitution, and or you say something which is, if you say something which is a natural right, then where do you locate it from? In our coded text, lot of natural rights have been codified in the constitution. That's why constitution is there. So people, I don't know, sometimes this is the biggest I think with the other petitions which has been the problem is that they have not taken the route of the statute and the constitution. They have taken the route of this some out of the book rights which they consider in their own self, that this is a natural right and I should be they should do it because I think that it is a right and it is a plant, it is a right to grow freely, which might be correct or which might not be correct, but you have to win in the system. So yeah, all this was there in my mind before filing the petition, and also that's why I had this bifurcation of different aspects of this plant. There was priorities given to different aspects which deserve the priority, and there were certain aspects which were left because they didn't deserve the priority. So and the first day of the arguments, the judges heard me very patiently, and a lot of arguments were of considerable length, and of course there was a fear in my mind before I made the arguments that people will think that it is they want to legalize this drug, so that they want to encourage the drug market, and they want to encourage this recreational drug in the society, and this will encourage the usage of this drug in the society. So everybody has a negative perception about that even if there is cigarettes or alcohol in the society, you don't want to introduce a third element also, or fourth element or fifth element. People don't think like that. People like the advocates of cannabis think like that if they want this negative equality, they want this equality where they think that if cigarettes are legal, then this should be legal also. But the other people who don't smoke cigarettes or don't drink alcohol, they think in a way that already cigarettes and alcohol is legal. You want to introduce one more thing. So I didn't want to go that route at all, and so mine was a very calculated fight in that sense, which I realized later that it was calculated because I heard so many arguments after my case was introduced, and I got introduced to this world and a lot of activists, and I figured out that this argument was not being made by anybody, and this argument is something which was probably sabotaging the fight for the other users of cannabis since past 25-30 years, and now also it is doing the same.
So after your PIL was filed, so you were invited by some farmers and some people in Kullu, so that explain it to them. They honored you. So there is give some background about what happened over there and what is people's perception, like farmers' perception about the legalization of the plant, basically, or the regulation.
Yes. So I was approached by the MLAs from that area. From Kullu and Manali, and the MLAs along with the panchayat heads, the pradhans. So they approached me, and they were very happy with the petition and the order which was passed in the first instant. I was initially I was not looking for help. I was just going by myself, and I was making a reason-based argument to the court, and I was going on the credibility I have and the reasons of the research which I had made, and through it I was going to the court, and I had confidence in that. But eventually I found out how many farmers are directly getting affected by it, and how big an issue it is for them, and how big an emotional issue it is for them. So they invited me, and this cap which I am wearing, it is a symbol of Malana, and they gifted me this cap as a mark of respect, and I was very grateful, and I was very touched when I went there and I saw that how this issue is relevant to everybody. I was thinking about it in a different way. Before that, I was thinking about it in a way that medicines should be provided to the patients, and because of the horrific what is that called, chemotherapy treatment which I saw a couple of my family members go through, and I was just against that, and that was my first way of researching into this plant. But eventually when I met the farmers, it just opened a whole world to me of how many people can get impacted by the legalization of this plant in a non-narcotic way, and how the narcotic use is sabotaging this very important right of non-narcotic use of this plant, and how it can change lives of so many people, and probably it can help people not to fall into the drug or any other drugs, apart from cannabis also other things. They will have better life choices. If they have better life, they can only have better life choices when they have economic power to do so. So this was something which they also realized, and they had called me there to give a lecture on what uses are there of cannabis, and if it is even possible for the government to do it. So what I understood through this whole process was that the government also didn't knew that there were exceptions in NDPS Act. It was before not raised also. This exceptions were not highlighted before this petition properly. There was one petition which was filed, but it didn't deal with the NDPS Act at all. It was based upon natural rights and taking cannabis out of the NDPS Act and just quashing down the NDPS Act. What my petition was that you don't have to quash down the NDPS Act, because NDPS Act is required for dealing with other problems of the society. There are drugs which have to be dealt with, and there is a proper framework which is there in the NDPS Act. But under the NDPS Act itself, there is an understanding that there is industrial hemp, there is medicinal hemp. What part of the plant is dangerous? What part of the plant can be allowed? What part of the plant you can make legislations upon? So this particular aspect was not highlighted, and I was very, very surprised that how for 35 years in 1985 nobody has highlighted this aspect, and only in Uttarakhand it had happened 1 year back before my petition, and there also it was 1 or 2 licenses were given out, but legally in the courts or in the legislative assembly, this particular aspect was never raised, that how NDPS Act cannot ban this. Even if NDPS Act first I was surprised that if the Act has banned scientific research, then this Act has to go. But then when I read the Act, I found out that Act has not banned. And the second thing is, how can an Act ban research in the first place? And second is there any differentiation made in the Act for narcotic use and for any other use, medicinal or industrial? And these things were not clear to anybody. And this was one of the most important aspects that I had to explain to the politicians, that you have the power to do it. They had not read the Act. Everybody had this understanding that there is this drug and this has to be controlled. And nobody was reading the Act. Nobody was thinking that we have to provide medicines or we have to provide industrial use of this plant. I think they didn't know about the industrial use and medicinal use of the plant also, leave alone the provisions in the Act. But what happened after this was that first I explained to the farmers that what are the uses and what are the industries and how they can earn money from the plant, and this is not like totally a bad thing to advocate this or stand up for these rights. This is not a bad thing to do, because this is something which is totally different from what drugs consumption is. If you are standing up for making clothes from a plant which is growing in your land, this is something which you have a right to demand. Second, that if you have a plant which you can provide medicines from, and it is the only thing growing in your vicinity or in your village, and your village can actually earn a lot of money from it, you have a right to demand it, because it is the right has accrued because of the geographical location. And if what they did was, in 2010 they tried to grow peas there. There was this NDPS people were involved in that, and they suggested that you grow something else, you grow peas. And for 1 year or 2 years, they had no money because no harvest happened, and nobody did anything about it. It happened in 2010, 11, and 12, and they had a big economic loss because of that. But nobody complained, nobody came to the court, and nobody did anything about it, and nobody thought that it was a bad thing that you have lost 1 year of your salary or 2 years of your salary. This was not, people didn't stood up against it, because they don't understand what their rights are. They don't understand that this is something which the government cannot do. This is something NDPS department cannot do. See, lawyers have the duty to make people understand when their rights are getting violated. People don't know what the rights are. They think that government is an all-powerful government. It is not all-powerful government. It is they are there to serve. They are not there to rule. See, the government is there to facilitate economic growth, and they are there to protect the fundamental rights of citizens. And the real sovereign of this country are the citizens. That is the difference what we achieved in 1947 when we got the independence from Britishers, that we don't have a ruler or a king now. We have people who are getting represented through our will, and they are representing our will, and they are there to protect us, and we are the real sovereigns. So this is one understanding which is lacking in lawyers also, and lacking in society also, where they take government decisions to be the ultimate decisions, and they have to abide by it. So now in this particular case, when for 2 years when this situation happened, and for 2 years these people didn't earn money, nobody raised a finger, and nobody provided them the compensation of the bad decision which was taken. Okay, you can allow experimentation probably for drug control, but for the loss which has happened, you provide them a compensation. For example, like if somebody is making a road and he wants to make a road through your house, then and that's the only way to do it. In India, you can do it. You can make a road, but you have to provide compensation at higher than the market rate. That is the thing. Like, it is the fairness of decisions has to be there in every decision of the government. It cannot be arbitrary, and it cannot disproportionately affect the weaker section of the society. And if it does affect them, then they have to be compensated. So all these issues were there. But now what I wanted to tell the court was that since the other things are not growing, and you have already had the experiments done on the population, and they have suffered losses, and those losses have not been mitigated. They have not been given compensation, and now also nothing is growing there. And now you have said that you will not use this plant because this plant is used by the drug market. So you will not grow anything there. This plant will not grow. You are not allowed to grow this plant. So what I am telling them is, either you let this wild cannabis be used by the village people as a resource so that their village can grow economically. What the first step they have to do is they have to establish a research institute in the state of Himachal, where there will be a dedicated group of scientists who will sit, and they will be dedicated to this plant all around the year. Like they have a potato research institute in Himachal, they should have a hemp or a cannabis research institute in the state. They will tell us what varieties of cannabis is there. They will tell us that what is the best way to grow a plant, and where the narcotic properties is not there. See, there are two things. First is cultivation of the plant, and second is collection of the plant. Collection is of the wild cannabis which is growing there, and it is only collection because the cultivation of this plant is not required, in my understanding, that because this plant is naturally growing everywhere, and it grows in 120 days, and it has been growing everywhere without any help from us. Whatever help was there in the earlier history may be there, but right now the situation is that this plant grows naturally, and that's why it's wild. The cultivation is of a crop. Now cultivation, right now, if what can be done is that cultivation of a crop can be done which doesn't have narcotic properties. When a plant doesn't have narcotic properties, then NDPS Act is not attracted to it, because NDPS Act has to be given a purposive definition. Purposive, it has a purpose. Purpose is to control narcotics. So if a plant is non-narcotic in its nature, or it has a very minimal narcotic properties, which is like 19% unusable for drug consumption, or it is it would be like useless for the drug market, then that plant, and if it can grow there and it has a high economic potential, then that plant should be allowed and experimented with in certain areas, and that can be done in a controlled manner, because you can hand out licenses in a controlled manner. You can give a piece of land in a controlled manner. You can, because you will have to see how what is the effect on nature and everything. And for that, scientists, first thing will be you establish a research institute. Then collection of this plant, which is wild cannabis, this can be collected. Collection has no problems. It has because right now also you need to do collection. You have to you are trying to destroy the plant right now. So rather than destroying the plant, you collect it, put it in your warehouses, study the plant, give it to your scientists. Right now, scientists don't have the plant to research upon. People are talking about that this much should be the percentage of THC, or this much should be. Who knows what is the who can? We can't like listen to any industrialist, or we can't listen to any a lawyer, or we can't listen to any politician. We need a dedicated institute, research institute, with official scientists of the state telling us what kind of a plant this is, and we don't have that, and we don't have research on the plant, and I have not seen any research being done on the plant till now. Why I am saying the research on this plant can be very lucrative is because it has a lot of medicinal qualities, and it has been proved to be economically very viable outside our country and within our country also. And when you have so many reasons of you are yourself a very state, you have taken this plea in the courts in every petition which I have filed that you don't have money. So when you are saying that you don't have money, so this is an alternative which you have. Your people don't have money, your government doesn't have money. So now we are saying that you have a plant. That's why they have agreed also with me in the court. I can't be so hard with the response of the government, because they have been very agreeable in the court, and they have understood this point, and people know this point, that there is economic possibility which can really improve the situation of these villages, and they are trying to put their mind into it. But they are also, if they copy the policies of other states like Uttarakhand, it's a horrible policy, though it is a step which has opened up. 2000, when I was talking about this in 2017, I was very happy with the step the Uttarakhand government took, and I was very happy if the Himachal government would have copied what Uttarakhand government had done. But now a lot of time has passed, and they have not even copied that, and right now we have got much better understanding, and we have got a result of how Uttarakhand has also failed in a lot of situations because of the bad policy it has. So what I want right now is that they first of all they establish a dedicated research institute, and they provide this cannabis plant to these scientists, so that they study all the strains which are there in different parts of the state. And secondly, they also try to introduce whatever seeds, and they open a seed bank, and they try to introduce whatever seeds are best suited for the environment here. which are not invasive species, and they make a balanced decision after that of how much percentage and what kind of a types of THC. It should be very liberal, and the objective should be that the environment doesn't get destroyed and farmers make huge amount of money from it. So that is the purpose. But like they have to start working on it very seriously, and this has to start as soon as possible. So because we are losing money if we are not making money. So this is the idea right now. So farmers are on board. I have got like 8 lakh farmers of 33 panchayats. They have given me their signatures, and I can get more farmers. Actually, I have spoken to a lot of MLAs also, and the more farmers also I can get. But there is no opposition in the court right now or from the government. So I don't know. I don't want to build up more strength behind me, because they have already agreed with it that okay, we will do it. And so I have to just like sit and wait for their decisions now.